a threat was made and we didn't think it was appropriate, so I have to be very careful. So I do that on the basis of safety for our people.
We're from a U.S. Navy reconnaissance plane 500 feet above the Red Sea after October 7th. As the Navy's top officer in the region, he ordered the Fifth Fleet into an area it typically sailed right through.
What would you do if you had only 20 seconds to save 5,000 lives on an aircraft carrier? That's the reality U.S. crews faced when missiles, reported as hypersonic, were fired directly at them in the Red Sea. But instead of fireballs, the story ended very differently. Why? Because the Houthis' dramatic claims collided with radar screens, interceptor launches, and official confirmations that no damage was done. In the next few moments, you'll see why the Navy wins this battle of missiles and misinformation. Before we move on, I would like you to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The Houthis declared that their missiles ripped through U.S. warships, but what really appeared on American radar screens painted a far different picture. Hours after their announcement, state-linked media echoed the same claims, pushing the idea that powerful hypersonic ballistic missiles had broken through one of the most advanced naval defenses in the world. For many who read those headlines, the story sounded final. Modern U.S. destroyers supposedly damaged, American power embarrassed, the Red Sea proving dangerous ground. But in reality, radar operators aboard those ships saw trajectories, intercepts, explosions in the atmosphere, and clean hulls underneath their boots. Nothing resembling a successful strike was ever confirmed. The event began with the Houthis declaring that they had launched a barrage of what they described as hypersonic missiles into the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. The way those words landed is worth examining.
Yeah, the left turn back around.
Our report begins not on the water, but in the air.
4-1 copies.
How many sailors are now in the Red Sea?
Yeah, we've got about 7,000 right now.
We were the first journalists to see the types of commercial ships the Houthis had targeted and the U.S. warships sent to protect them.
Hypersonic means speeds greater than 5 times the speed of sound. In theory, such weapons tear across the sky so fast they compress the reaction window of any defense down to seconds. The idea suggests that no radar lock or interceptor could be ready in time. By adding the label of ballistic to their claims, the Houthis invoked images of unstoppable arcs diving down from the stratosphere. To an audience already accustomed to daily headlines about evolving missile threats from Russia and China, the wording carried weight. Global media quickly spread the statements. Major outlets repeated the dramatic wording of Houthi announcements, sometimes placing it alongside speculation that U.S. vessels were either struck or forced to dodge incoming fire. Footage of missiles launching from Yemen provided dramatic visuals, even though no independent confirmation of hits on ships existed. For viewers far from the scene, the repetition of these stories seemed convincing. A missile launches on video, a group claims success, and suddenly the idea solidifies that American forces took damage. Against that storm of claims and reporting, the official record told another story. U.S. Central Command reported intercepts instead of damage. The Navy confirmed ships were fully operational. Missile tracking logs recorded waves of drones, cruise missiles, and traditional short-range ballistic missiles. But with every launch came an intercept. No American sailors were killed. Not a single ship was put out of action. The contrast alone raises the question, if damage never happened, why stress the language of hypersonic strikes? The concrete engagements provide clarity. The USS Stockdale engaged at least 2 incoming drones and tracked ballistic missiles the same night of the reported attack. Its standard missile interceptors destroyed them before impact. Alongside it, the USS Spruance coordinated to fire missiles and manage drone threats simultaneously. Sailors described the chaos of multiple inbound tracks on their screens, each one treated as a lethal trajectory until an interceptor impact cleared it. What the Houthis presented to the world as breakthroughs were, in reality, failures stopped mid-air. Still, the choice of words matters. If a group calls every missile hypersonic, it suggests new technology and an edge that might intimidate regional adversaries. Even without proof, those terms ripple across international headlines and influence perceptions. Observers abroad who only see the word hypersonic may assume that American protections are breaking down. That kind of narrative is its own weapon, used not to destroy steel, but to sway opinion. The confusion spread. Some analysts hesitated to dismiss the claims outright because information trickled in slowly. On one side were striking reports of hypersonic breakthroughs. On the other were careful statements of intact American ships. For hours, both stories sat in the international conversation side by side, which gave the appearance of uncertainty. The record eventually settled. Verified data and physical inspections of the ships showed no hits. Every projectile launched by the Houthis was destroyed or rendered ineffective before reaching American warships. The result was not a stealthy victory for the attackers, but an unbroken chain of defensive successes for the U.S. Navy. And if the claims collapsed under scrutiny, the next issue becomes far more important: how two destroyers and their allies managed to stop what was described as unstoppable. How did two American destroyers and a web of radars stop what was described as a hypersonic storm? The answer rests inside a shield that was never built from a single weapon, but from layers stacked like armor. At the center is the Aegis combat system, a nervous system of radars and computers that can track hundreds of objects high above the water at once. Attached to that web are interceptors, the SM-2, SM-3, and SM-6 missiles. Each one built for different altitudes and ranges. And in case something slips through, the deck carries the Phalanx close-in weapon system, a radar-guided gun that spits thousands of rounds in seconds at anything the larger missiles cannot catch. These levels act together, and their coordination leaves almost no room for an inbound missile to glide unchallenged. On paper, this seems straightforward, but raw speed complicates everything. A missile moving at several times the speed of sound can cover miles in seconds. That leaves sailors with reaction windows as slim as 15 to 20 seconds if a missile suddenly appears. In practical terms, there is barely time for the radar to capture a track, for computers to predict its course, and for a weapons officer to fire an interceptor. Critics often said this window was too short to be realistic, that even modern ships would be overwhelmed by an attack like the one the Houthis claimed. Yet when those missiles were fired, U.S. systems did not collapse. Operators made the most of seconds, and those seconds were enough. Picture the view aboard one of the destroyers when alarms sounded. Radar screens lit up with inbound tracks, small symbols crawling across grids. Sailors in combat information centers scrambled to confirm each one, readying interceptors. The order to launch came fast, and standard missiles rose from the vertical launch cells with flames roaring across the deck. Above the ships, interceptors arced and detonated at ranges where the naked eye saw only faint flashes in the dark sky. To the sailors at consoles, it was a constant rhythm: locate, assign, fire, confirm. Dozens of decisions landed on their tables in seconds, and each exhausted choice meant the difference between clean steel hulls or burning wreckage. These defenses did not operate in isolation. USS Stockdale, USS O'Kane, and USS Spruance were bound by cooperative engagement capability, a network that allows radars and launchers to share data instantly. If one ship's radar caught a track, every nearby destroyer saw it immediately, and whichever vessel had the best firing position took the shot. This spread the defensive burden across the group, preventing any single ship from drowning under too many incoming threats. Even with such precision, missiles aren't the only answer. Defense often included clouds of chaff released into the sky, metallic strands designed to confuse guidance systems. Decoys and electronic jamming added extra layers, and it wasn't only destroyers in the fight. U.S. helicopters assisted in tracking and intercepting drones, while French aircraft flying nearby contributed to interceptions during the same period. This mix of national assets demonstrated that missile defense isn't a single-ship contest, but a cooperative shield cast by multiple militaries at once. The Houthis launched missiles, but their impact ended in headlines, not in steel torn open at sea. Time after time, the Navy's shield caught every strike, leaving attackers with claims but no victories. That pattern matters because in conflict, truth and perception fight side by side. Viewers should look closely at sources, question first reports, and measure what holds up under verification. The layered defense remains effective, though costly, with millions spent for each interceptor. The unanswered question now isn't whether the Navy can defend, it's how long stockpiles and budgets can carry that shield into future battles.